Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in everyone's life when the world gets too loud, too many opinions, too many expectations, and too many distractions. And amidst all this chaos, we begin to forget the most sacred relationship we will ever have, the one with ourselves. Today, I want to take you to a place within where silence is not emptiness but healing, where solitude isn't loneliness but growth. This is not a speech, this is a conversation with your soul. It's a reminder that your greatest transformation will happen when you stop performing for the world and start nurturing your inner garden. This is your moment to focus on yourself and bloom in silence. Silence is not absence, it is presence of depth. There is a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels full, like the sky just before the rain. That kind of silence holds the weight of unspoken stories, the power of paused emotions, and the strength of someone who chooses stillness over screaming. It is in that sacred quiet where the heart speaks in its truest voice, where the soul begins to echo louder than any chaos around. The world may misunderstand your quietness, may call it withdrawal or weakness, but only you know it is a deliberate return to your center. When the world gets too loud, the wisest thing to do is to walk into your own quiet. Not to run away, but to return. Return to the version of yourself that is not shaped by noise but by intention. It is in that soft space where you can finally breathe without judgment, without pressure, without the need to explain. Because sometimes the deepest healing begins not with words but with listening to the wounds that never found language, listening to the parts of you that were long ignored. In that depth of silence, growth does not need validation. It simply needs protection. You don't bloom by announcing your petals to the world. You bloom by sinking your roots quietly into the unseen. You begin to understand that the loudest transformations are the ones that happen without noise. The rising after fall, the hope after heartbreak, the peace after war. Silence, when held with love, becomes a language all its own. Self-focus is not selfish, it is sacred responsibility. There is nothing more powerful than choosing yourself in a world that constantly tells you to be everything for everyone else. Self-focus is not neglecting others. It is simply remembering that your soul has needs too. When you begin to turn inward, you find a mirror that does not lie. It reflects your truth, your wounds, your dreams, your fears, and your deepest longing to be whole again. And that journey of becoming whole is not just brave, it is holy. The moment you begin to ask yourself what you truly want, you start to disturb every version of you that was built for others. You begin to dismantle the masks you wore just to fit in, just to be loved, just to be accepted. Focusing on yourself is not about building walls, it is about digging foundations. It is about creating a life that no longer needs to be escaped from. It is not escape, it is alignment. In this sacred process of self-focus, you will feel discomfort, you will feel lonely, and you will feel the weight of every truth you once buried. But with every layer you peel back, you come closer to the essence of who you are beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the expectations. And when you meet that version of yourself raw, honest, unfiltered, you begin to rebuild from love, not lack. Your healing doesn't need to be loud, let it be sacred. Healing is not a show. It is a prayer whispered in the dark when no one is watching. It is the trembling of your hands as you finally let go of something you never thought you'd survive without. There's a softness to true healing, not the kind that makes headlines, but the kind that restores your spirit quietly, gently, moment by moment. In that softness, you are not pretending to be okay. You are giving yourself permission to become whole at your own pace. There will be days when you fall apart without explanation, and nights when you piece yourself back together without applause. And in those moments, the world won't know the battles you fought, but your soul will remember the courage it took to breathe again. Healing is not linear, it is not polished, and it is never perfect. It's messy, it's raw. But in that rawness, there is resurrection. You do not owe anyone a display of your progress. You owe yourself peace. There is something divinely powerful about healing without proving, growing without announcing, and rising without permission. You do not have to scream your pain to validate your wounds. You just have to trust the process, the sacred unfolding of becoming someone who chose to keep going, even when it was easier to give up. Blooming doesn't need validation, it needs alignment. The most beautiful bloom happens when you stop seeking the sun in other people and realize it was always within you. Your growth doesn't need to be measured by how many people notice it, it needs to be aligned with how deeply you feel it. When you start honoring your own seasons, you stop rushing your spring and mourning your winter. You begin to realize that you are allowed to grow quietly, to evolve without applause, and to shine without an audience. Alignment is when your heart, your soul, and your actions speak the same language. It's when you no longer chase what isn't yours, because you finally remembered who you are. You begin to turn down the noise of comparison and turn up the volume of your inner compass. You stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start asking, "Is this true to me?" And in that shift, your bloom becomes inevitable. There is strength in quiet growth, in silent revolutions, in unseen victories. The flower does not grow faster because someone is watching it. It grows because its roots are deep, its ground is solid, and its rhythm is its own. You are allowed to be that flower. You are allowed to bloom for no one else but yourself. Because blooming was never about being seen, it was always about being real. Protect your peace. It's the foundation of your becoming. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of boundaries. And those boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but doors that you choose to open only when it's safe to do so. You begin to realize that not every invitation is meant to be accepted, not every fight deserves your voice, and not every opinion needs your response. Protecting your peace means choosing stillness over chaos and intention over reaction. There is a power in walking away without bitterness, in detaching without anger, and in choosing silence without guilt. Not because you're avoiding life, but because you finally learned that your energy is sacred. You start to listen to your body when it's tired, to your heart when it's heavy, and to your spirit when it whispers enough. And slowly, you begin to rebuild a life that doesn't drain you but nourishes you. Your peace is the ground where your purpose stands. Without it, even your greatest potential feels lost. But with it, everything begins to make sense. When you honor your peace, you start attracting people who do the same. You start creating moments that heal instead of harm. And you begin to rise, not with noise, but with grace. In that quiet, protected space, you become unstoppable, not because you are loud, but because you are aligned. In the end, there comes a point in life where the world outside feels like a storm, and the only safe shelter left is the one within. In that quiet place, you begin to understand that your healing, your blooming, and your rising were never meant to be loud. They were meant to be sacred. The greatest transformations do not scream, they unfold. Slowly, silently, with grace. When you choose to focus on yourself, you are not walking away from the world. You are walking back home to your truth. You are returning to the space where growth is real, where boundaries are respected, and where peace becomes your daily prayer. To bloom in silence is to trust the process even when no one is watching, to water your soul in the dark, and to rise without seeking permission. It is a declaration that your worth is not defined by how visible your success is, but by how aligned your spirit feels. Every moment spent nurturing yourself, every decision to protect your peace, and every silent victory is a step toward a version of you that is whole, grounded, and glowing from within. That version doesn't need validation, it only needs presence. So choose yourself, not in rebellion, but in reverence. Let your silence become your strength. Let your stillness become your sanctuary. Because the most beautiful flowers don't bloom for the world, they bloom because it is their time. And when your time comes, you will bloom too, not in noise, not in chaos, but in silence that is louder than words, deeper than applause, and more powerful than anything the world could ever offer.